What's going on, everybody? My name is Gavin Pollock, and I'm a Division I runner at Idaho State University, and I also have a video production company and create content about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and a college student athlete at the same time. And today I want to make a video that I wish I would have had before I came to college and before I started my business, and it's the biggest pros and the biggest cons of specifically being an entrepreneur while being a college student athlete. Is it a good idea or not? I think that there's a lot of pros to being an entrepreneur, and I think there's a lot of pros to going to college, and I think there's some cons to both. And I also think it's a really unique, interesting thing to try and do both at the same time, especially when you factor in being an athlete as well. And so I want to talk about my perspective and what I've experienced the last 3 years. I've got 1 year left, but I've been doing this for 3 years now, where I've been running this video production company, really this freelance agency, while studying marketing and finance, as well as being an athlete. So just a little bit of background about how I found myself in this position. So during high school, I developed a passion for making videos. I think a lot of people during that age like making videos on their iPhones and with iMovie and Final Cut Pro and all these things. But for me, it became kind of an obsession about storytelling. I really liked the idea of storytelling through the medium, particularly of video, and I developed a passion for that. And then when I graduated, I didn't make a whole lot of videos for a while, but I sort of came back to it, and I always knew that there were people out there that made videos for companies, and I thought that it would be the coolest thing in the world to be able to get paid to make cool videos. I didn't really know exactly what that looked like or what that was going to take, but I wanted to do that. And this was back in like 2020, 2021, and I didn't see a whole lot of people hiring for a job like that. And so I knew that if I wanted to really make videos for a living, that I was going to have to start my own business. And that's what I did. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just knew that I wanted to make videos for people. And so I was working a full-time job landscaping at the time, but I just used my time before work early in the morning and then after work in the evenings and on the weekends as well to email companies in my area. And I had an entire spreadsheet of different companies and their responses, and I would offer some really cheap videos and some free videos. And I eventually got one client to pay me $200 to do a video. Actually, I think my first video was for free, and then I got one $250 video, and then that led to the next project, which led to the next project. And within about 6 to 8 months, I was making more working on the weekends and the evenings and the mornings than I was working my full-time job landscaping. And that was really the first time I realized the power of entrepreneurship. And that's really my first point, is you have an unlimited earning potential paired with really an unlimited opportunity for freedom and flexibility. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm super busy, and it's really a challenge to be a college student as well as run a business, but the ability to make money essentially on my own time, and the ability to make as much money as I put my mind to, that's really the most important thing for me. And that's the thing that really motivates me. You could tell me right now that however much I made last year, you could guarantee that I go work a salary job and I make triple that next year. And while that sounds nice, I know myself, and I know that even if I make more, I'm less motivated to work hard when I don't have the incentive of knowing that I could make as much as I want, right? Knowing that even if I get paid a lot, that I'm not going to get paid any more for working any harder. That idea of not having a ceiling on my income opportunity is really exciting for me. And that's what gets me up in the morning, and that's what really gets me excited. And that's the aspect of entrepreneurship that I love, is knowing that as hard as I work and as big as I build this business, there's no cap to how much I can make and what kind of life that I build myself. Like I said, within about 6 months, I had replaced my income essentially. I was still working full-time landscaping, but I was busy enough with the videos that I was able to take a couple days off here and there from working, and I was making more money doing the videos than I was from my other job. And I realized, I thought that I was, just passionate about video, and that's what I wanted to do, was to make videos and tell stories. And I did love that, but I realized I was more passionate about entrepreneurship and selling videos and creating a business, building a business. I was more passionate about that than I was even the videos. I came to a point where I had not been in high school for kind of a while, and it was always a plan to go to college, but with the development of my business, I wasn't really sure if that's what I wanted to do anymore. But one of the main things is ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a collegiate athlete. So I maintained the idea that I might be able to go run in college. And I talked to a couple different coaches here and there, and I got the opportunity to talk to a coach at Idaho State University, and he offered me eventually a walk-on roster spot. And I looked at that as an opportunity that wasn't going to come again. I could always build a business after college, but I wasn't going to be able to have a college running career ever again. And so I said, you know what, however this kind of stunts my growth, I'm willing to take it. I'm going to take these 4 years. I'm going to go run in college. And I also liked the idea of being around professors and other business students to network and to try and learn as much as I can from them, because I realized that making cool videos isn't what's going to make you money. It's going to be making videos that get your clients results. And so you need to understand brand, and you need to understand marketing, and you need to understand general business. And that's just something that was really foreign to me. So I looked at college as an opportunity to take the principles I was learning and implement them directly into my business. And this brings me to my second pro of being an entrepreneur while in college is your learning is so much different when you are taking from your classes and from your professors and trying to implement it directly into something in the real world. Most college students, they come to college for 4 years, they take their degree, they try and go get a job, and then a lot of times they end up kind of having to relearn everything that they learned in college in the job, and that's even if they get a job in the field that they graduated in. But for me, with having a very specific focus, if I wanted to focus on business, marketing, and branding, and I already had problems that I was running into in my business that I was looking for solutions for. And I was asking professors specific questions, and I was taking notes specifically about things that were happening in my business and then being able to implement them. That helped me and has helped me become better at business and be a better student at the same time, because I have something that I'm passionate about in my life that I'm able to directly implement the things I'm learning from college and do it very quickly. And my approach to school has been different than most people. Most people come to either try and figure out what they want to do, or they just come to get a degree so that they can get the qualifications for their job. But for me, I understood that a degree was not necessarily going to be the most valuable thing I got from college. Being an entrepreneur, a college degree is essentially useless for you, and nobody has ever hired me for a video before because I have a degree. For me, it was the information, and it was the connections and the relationships that I made. So I literally have a note on my phone that's literally entitled, "Things I'll Actually Learn from College." And on here, there's nothing about what's going to be on a test. I couldn't even tell you which note is from which individual class. It's literally just things that I've noticed and liked and been able to implement into my business or in my life some way that I've written down. And that's how I approach college in general. And because of that, maybe my grades aren't as good as they could be if I was really focusing on grades, but I really try and put information first and value first. And I take what I can use and I implement it into my business, and I honestly leave the rest. I have to make sure I'm academically eligible to compete, so I have to keep my GPA above a certain mark. But other than that, I really try and focus on being as efficient as I possibly can with my learning in college. And then, as I got to college and I started to run with the team, I really started to enjoy my time. And I ended up getting married within my first year and a half at college. And I remember going through that process of getting married and realizing that my business is going to need to be an actual business. I'm going to actually need to make money from this. It's not just something fun that I get paid every once in a while. I need to make my business a viable source of income if I'm going to be starting a family and trying to buy a house and do all these things, which was complicated and it was difficult. And trying to be an athlete and compete and be focused and recover and train and be to all the meetings that you need to be to and stay on top of your classes. And then you've got these clients that you're still trying to take care of, many of which were across the state, and I was having to travel back and forth. It became a lot really fast, and I realized that I was going to have to really buckle down and be disciplined if this was going to be something that I was going to be able to do while I was in college. But the reality is, and this is my third point, is because you have some of that freedom to work for people that you do want to work for and to say no to clients that you don't necessarily want to work for, and to be able to edit on your own time and to be able to set up shoots on your own time. But what this allowed me to do was it allowed me to prioritize my life in the way that I wanted to prioritize it. I could prioritize my training where I needed to prioritize it. I could prioritize my family and my wife the way that I needed to prioritize that aspect of my life. I could prioritize my business, and I could put things where I needed to put them rather than just showing up and someone telling me where to be and what to do every single day. And I see this all the time, especially in entry-level jobs with my peers in college, is they kind of have this lack of freedom and this lack of ability to prioritize the most important things in life. And so they end up just being really overworked and stressed. And don't get me wrong, it's stressful to do this, but at least I can prioritize the most important things. And if I work really hard and set up systems and create a business that's somewhat self-sustaining, and the better I get at that, the more freedom I'm going to be able to have. And one of the things, just as a caveat, is I really don't believe that as a college student, you have to be poor. That's something that I feel like a lot of kids, they just accept this idea that, well, I'm in college and so I'm just going to be broke. And a lot of times that's how it is. And I got really fortunate, and through scholarships, I'm really not paying for much of my schooling. And so student loans is not something that I have to deal with. And I understand that cost of living is different all over the place. But this idea that because I'm in college and because I'm in my early 20s, that I just have to be broke, I don't necessarily agree with that idea. And that's one of the coolest things about especially online businesses nowadays, is you as a young adult can kind of take your own wealth into your own hands. You don't have to leave your salary up to whatever employer you were lucky enough to get a job with. You can create your own goals, and you can try and make your own money with a ton of different online business models. It's not easy. It really isn't. Starting any kind of business is not easy. I'm not one of those online gurus that's just going to tell you that you should start e-com and you're going to make tons and tons of money. I'm here to tell you that especially in college, when you have a lot of responsibilities, starting a business is very difficult, no matter what kind of business it is, and it's going to require a very high level of discipline because you're working on your own hours and there's nobody holding you accountable to actually work. I've been able to connect with professors. I've been able to talk to and work for some professors, and I've been able to connect and work for some of the students and network with those individuals, and surrounding yourself, generally speaking, with high-level, success-driven people. That's most of the people that you're going to find in college. And if you can surround yourself with people like that, that's a huge win. Now, the part that's not as fun to talk about are some of the cons. I think personally the pros outweigh the cons. I think it's awesome, but I also understand that it's not for everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Just like being an accountant is not for everybody, and just like being a doctor is not for everybody. Some people are going to thrive in other situations. But the first one is you don't have a guaranteed income. You don't have a ceiling on your income. And so you can make as much as you work hard towards, but there's also some months you could make zero because you don't make any money as an entrepreneur unless you make something actually happen, right? With a salary job, as long as you walk in the door and you clock in, and meet their minimum standards for working in the day, you're going to get paid. But as an entrepreneur, I could work all day long and make absolutely nothing, because you only make money when you make things happen. And I think I've already touched on this one, but the second con would be just the stress, right? You've got clients that are depending on you. You've got this sort of overhanging responsibility of, if I don't put the work in, if I don't sell another job, or if I don't sell these, whatever I'm selling online, I'm not going to make any money this month. But that being said, nobody has ever gotten really rich without taking the risk. And the other thing I want to talk about is, if you choose to run a business, whether it's a small or a big business in college, there's a certain level of loneliness that comes with it, because not a whole lot of people are trying to do it. So not a whole lot of people are going to relate to the problems that you're having. And there's also a certain level of insecurity because you're really putting yourself out there and you're going a little bit against the grain. You have to have a high level of self-belief that this is going to work out, because sometimes you have to just do something over and over again with no results or no promise of return until it finally clicks, until it finally works out, right? I remember being extremely frustrated when I'd be sending out dozens of emails every single day to these business owners offering a free video and not getting a single response. But I didn't understand this idea that sometimes nothing happens until everything happens. So you have to have a lot of patience, you have to have a lot of humility and a lot of self-confidence in yourself, because it can be lonely, it can be stressful, and it can be really difficult. Overall, however, I really wouldn't change anything. I think entrepreneurship brings out the best in you. I think it forces discipline out of you. I think it helps you in so many aspects of life. It helps you to become a better person. And I think that if you are a young person deciding between entrepreneurship and or college, I think you can do both. And now, are there a lot of instances, and do I have a lot of friends that have had success either dropping out of college or not going to college and pursuing their creative or entrepreneurial dreams? Absolutely. And that might be for you. And are there a lot of people that just go the college route because they want their degree and they want to get a job, work and salary, or even they want to be in business and an entrepreneur, but they wanted to get a degree anyway? I think that works as well. What I'm speaking to is a very unique group of people, I think, that either are in college and don't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur, but they want to make extra income, or they have an interest a little bit in business, or someone like me that is split between going to college and athletics and being an entrepreneur. I'm here to tell you that it can be done, and you can do it. It just requires some sacrifice and some self-discipline. And that's something I really want to continue to do on this channel for the next year, is share my experience being a college student athlete and an entrepreneur at the same time, and share my pitfalls and what I struggle with, as well as some things that are having success. And I want to share the growth of the business, and I want to share hopefully a successful last few seasons of my college career as well as a runner. And so if you're interested, go follow me over on Instagram and Strava, and also subscribe here, and I will see you guys next week.